to Summerlicious. This is our very first virtual Summerlicious. And I do hope that you have a drink, a cool drink, and lots of hors d'oeuvres, because you're going to feel very hungry after you see the demonstration. We have 5 chefs, excellent chefs, and 2 helpers. And they've been preparing over the last couple of days to make this special for you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the 5. The first one up is Denis Pereira. He is a mixologist and he's been self-trained. He can also do other things, but I don't want to brag too much about him because his head will swell. Number 2 is Lisette. If you don't know Lisette, Lisette does everything. She cooks, she gardens, she looks after birds and animals for her husband, and she's an amazing person. Number 3 is Muriel, who taught Denis everything he knows. But Muriel's going to be doing appetizers, and I'm sure that you will have your mouth watering. Number 4, we have Chef Warren Lobo. He is a true chef, qualified, and teaches students and takes them to Paris for the hands-on experience. I'm sure Warren will wow you. The 5th one is my beautiful daughter-in-law, Karen, with her assistant, my gorgeous, huggable Emily, granddaughter. Each one of them is going to do and explain what they're going to do. So I don't have to go into detail, but I want to tell you they're amazing. They have done this before. Some of them have done this before, given up their time and their resources to entertain you. Joan de Rosario was supposed to be here, but instead Karen and Emily are going to take over. Joan prepared a cake and it turned out so good. She ate the whole thing. And today she's got a tummy ache and she's in bed. So Karen's taking over. I'm going to introduce you to Denis, who's going to do his thing. And I hope you enjoy it and have a great time. Thank you.
Greta said I can do my thing. I don't know what she was talking about, but welcome to Cartagena in Colombia, where we are going to try some cocktails. Now, I'm going to introduce some cocktails to you that are very easy to make, although we have a lot of cocktails now in beer cans and mixes like Caesars and other drinks. But when you go to make cocktails at home, it takes a lot of time. So I've decided to make very simple ones for you. You'll hear them, you'll understand them, and you'll be able to do them. But before we start, I want you to think of something. The best way to prevent hangovers is to stay drunk. So after this, if you have a hangover, don't worry about it, carry on drinking. The first drink I'm going to introduce to you today, and before I do that, a couple of things. Number 1, the ice that you use has to be fresh. And when I mean fresh, just made in the fridge maybe for a day. If you go to any of the islands, they always bring fresh ice out every day so that it's fresh. So I prepared that. And the next thing is you have to have your glasses nice and chilled. So I have that too. So the first drink I'm going to make is called a Martini Twist. Ice, swirl it around. Now some of you are going to ask, don't you have a cocktail shaker? That takes time, so I decided not to have that. Next thing is, you get a bottle of Martini Fiorano, and if you forget the name, think of Campari, because it's a very drink very close to Campari. A shot of that. Now you're going to ask me, what's a shot of that? Couple of ounces, 3 ounces, and then a touch of tonic water. swirl it a little. And I call this drink an orange twist because I'm going to add a slice of orange to the top. And that's the first drink for the day, called the orange twist, and very refreshing. If I have it now, you might feel jealous, so I will not sip it right now. The next thing I would like to do is, before I do it, we all have that sayings, especially our wives keep telling us, alcohol kills slowly. So what? Who's in a hurry? So the next drink I'm going to make for you is something with a Russian blend in it. You know, the Russians have been attacking the states with their cyber attacks, interfering with their elections, and a lot of other stuff. So today I'm going to make you first what I call a Black Russian. And again, a chill glass. A cube of ice. And this time I'm going to measure the vodka that I'm going to use. And the reason for that is, after I've done it, I'll tell you. I'm going to put 1.5 ounces. That's 1 ounce, and since I'm making a drink for myself, I'm going to make it 2 ounces. I can hear a lot of laughter in the background, especially for some guy called Adolf in Rochester, but it's okay, Adolf. The next thing I'm going to put in this is a Mexican liqueur. And the reason I'm stressing Mexican, because this drink can be made, you can call it a Black Russian, Mexican made, or you can call it a Black Russian with Tia Maria, Italian made. And then I'll show you the third one. Again, important thing is swirl it. That's the reason I'm not using a shaker, because I think it breaks up the mix, and this way when you sip it, you're going to get the taste of the Kahlua, the Black Russian. If you add Tia Maria, you'll get the taste of the Tia Maria, which is an Italian Russian. And the third one that I'm going to call, for the fun of it, it's a White Russian because of the nationalists in the States. And for that, a simple drink of Kahlua with milk. That's for people like Albert Denis, who doesn't drink at all. And the last drink in the Russian, the last drink for the Russian category is going to be what we call a Moscow Mule. And again, the Moscow Mule will be vodka and would be ginger beer. Now, the reason I measured the first drink was because this drink, you can make it personal. If somebody likes it sweet, you use extra Kahlua. If somebody likes it, like I do, nice and strong, the Kahlua is less, because I'm afraid of getting diabetes, so I put less Kahlua, and the drink is good. The spirit will make my blood run nice and thin. So, same with the ginger beer. Ginger beer will make your your Moscow Mule very sweet. So it all depends how sweet you want to make it. Talking about ginger beer, we are well known for having shandies. And I realized that we always use a lemonade or a ginger ale or a Sprite, but give it a try. Give ginger beer a try, and I guarantee you, that you will stick to ginger beer instead of lemonade or Sprite. Now, the important thing about ginger beer, I think you gotta get the Jamaican made. It has more taste of ginger than the ones made locally. Another one that is really good is called Solo. And that's, I think, from Trinidad. And I was told it is more ginger than the Jamaican ginger beer. So those are three drinks. You got the Mexican Black Russian. Then you have the Tia Maria, the Italian Black Russian. Then you have the White Russian with milk. And last you have the Moscow Mule with ginger beer. The next thing I would like to do is, before I do it, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. And this story started in 1972 while we were in Uganda, and we were all leaving the place, and Greta was in Uganda all by herself, and Vivian was in Canada preparing for their arrival. And I said to Greta, when you go to Canada, you're going to meet Vivian, there's going to be an earthquake. And was there an earthquake? I'll tell you after this drink. Okay, again, you need a chill glass. You need a couple of ounce and a half of vodka.
You can see you, they can hear you.
I wonder if any of you noticed I made a mistake. But if you haven't noticed it, talk among yourselves. I did not put any ice, so I'm going to put 2 cubes of ice into it now. And now here's where the second part of the story carries on. And I'm going to use melon liqueur. That storm that Greta had when she came to Canada in 72, 9 months later, a nice little girl called Melanie appeared. Now, Muriel and myself always call Melanie Melon. And therefore, for this drink that's today, it's in honor of Melanie, but a melon. And I'm going to call this drink a melon explosion that took place in 1972. Now again, for ladies, I would put about an ounce. And the reason for that is because of the sweetness. Twirl it. And then I'm going to put a splash of cranberry. Now again, you get cranberry and you get cranberries. If you use cranberry cocktails, it's a little bit too sweet for this drink. If you use plain cranberry with no sugar added, it gives you that tartness that you want to have, because as you drink it, you'll get the sweetness and the tartness from the drink. Again, how much are you going to put of this? It all depends who's going to drink it. And I'm going to say this, but some people might not agree with me, but people that visit us at Mule and myself, I tend to know the drinks that people like and I will make it to their kind of sweetness. And cheers to Melanie, melon, for the melon explosion. Now, the last drink I'm going to talk about, but I will make it if I have the time, which I think I do. Because all the drinks here, you notice I'm not using a shaker, and it's happening very fast. Otherwise, if you have people over and you keep making cocktails, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be at the cocktail bar making cocktails, and you won't be able to take part with your guests. So the last drink I'm going to make for you, a common one, and some of you will say, where do we get all the mixes and all from? Very simple. Chill glass, fresh ice, homemade lime juice. Now, the question most people will ask, how much lime do we have to use? Again, it depends on each individual, on the sweetness. I put a couple of spoons, maybe 3 teaspoons. And what goes into a margarita? I'm not showing you the name, but I'm sure you must have guessed tequila. And of late, tequila seems to be fashionable. Again, depends on the strength of the person. I'm going to use 1.5 ounces. And the next thing, again, homemade, and you should have this in your house and use it whenever you can, whenever you want to. Simple syrup, that is sugar and water. Put it on the stove, let it simmer, let it cool down, put it in the bottle, and it's ready to go whenever you need it. Again, you will add as much sweetness as you want for the preference of the person who's going to drink it. Sweet, you add more. And if you go and you want to add this liqueur, triple sec, it's really great in a margarita. Now, if you went to LCBO to buy triple sec, you cannot get it in a small bottle. Therefore, I came out with the sugar syrup at home instead of using triple sec. But I have it at home because I thought that triple sec was SEX and not SCC. So that was it. And now a slice of lime. Stir it up a bit, and you have your margarita. Again, now somebody's going to say, what about the rim? That's a preference. You want to make a rim, then you got to get the rest of the stuff, but you don't need that. So cheers to the margarita. Now, before I go off air, if there are any questions you have, don't send them to me because I will not answer them because I'll be drunk by then. And before I hand you over to the next person, I want to end off with this. A drunken was hurled into the court. Mister, you have been brought here for drinking. The guy said, great, when are we going to start? Right now. Cheers. And now over to the Saldahna bakery.
Hi, thank you, Denis. That you are some act to follow. I got high just watching you do those cocktails. Anyway, welcome to Summerlicious, and thank you, Greta and your team, for letting us be a part of this event. Today, I'm going to make for you focaccia, which is a specialty bread and a flat bread. And in keeping with the pandemic, I am going to be making a sourdough focaccia. Okay, so you may ask me, what does sourdough mean? And sourdough simply means that in every sourdough recipe, you usually have only 3 ingredients to make bread, and that's flour, water, and salt. There is, in an authentic sourdough bread, you do not use any commercial yeast. And we use a rising agent called a starter, which I will take you through later. Anyway, let's get started. For this process, I'm going to be bringing in a helper. So let's welcome Tim. Tim is my son-in-law, and Tim and Amy just got married in late April, so he's my brand new son-in-law. And this is a good way for us to chill and get to know each other better, even though I don't think there's anything you will say that will surprise me. Anyway, let's get going. We are going to use a glass bowl so you can see everything, and I hope you can. Right now, to get started, we have 4 ounces of sourdough starter in that bowl, to which we are going to add 12 ounces of filtered water, or you could use tap water, but if you do, just leave that out on the counter overnight or for a couple of hours at least, so you can get rid of any contaminants like chlorine. Okay, so I'm going to add that into that bowl. And I'm going to pass on a spatula to Tim. And the next, so you're just going to stir that until all that starter is dissolved in the water. Okay, so we're looking for a nice milky clear solution. And you will find as you do sourdough baking that you will find an appliance that you like to work with. I just love a spatula, and that's because this is a very sticky dough, and a spatula is easy to clean while you're working with it. Okay, so is that looking pretty good? Mm-hmm. All right, so as you can see through it, it's all like a clear milky solution. So to that, we are going to add your flour. I use white, all-purpose, unbleached flour. And in here, I have 1 pound, 4 ounces of flour, to which I've added 2 teaspoons of salt, which is well blended. Okay, so we're going to put that in. Okay, and the next thing we do is go ahead and mix it. And you're just going to use that spatula or whatever appliance you have to pull in all the flour into the liquid. Okay, I would caution you to stay away from a whisk, because sourdoughs are very sticky. And if you're using a whisk, it tends to pull everything up into the whisk, and you get frustrated and you're going to lose a lot of dough in the process. Okay, as you can see, why I love this appliance is that you can scrape the sides of the bowl quite easily. You can get under the dough if you have to. And Tim is doing a great job. I think his workout for the day will be done when we're finished. There we go. I need to have this assistant with me 3 times a week when I do my baking of my sourdough bread.
When you get your spatula from.
Okay.
So look at this, Sarah.
All right, so I want you to notice one thing. This dough, and I'm going to just turn it up a bit, is a very craggy, if that's a word. I have a grandson, so I do not have good vocabulary anymore. But it's not a smooth dough. It is very rough. So do not get put off. The only idea here is to mix in your flour with the liquid, and to keep your hands away from the dough as long as you can. At least that's the way I look at it, because it is a sticky dough. And once you put your hands in, it's going to you're going to pick up a lot of flour. So whenever Tim feels he's ready to put his hands in there, and I think we're good. We've got all our flour, most of the flour out. Another trick, and I'll just show you, let Tim show you, is sometimes there's a lot of loose flour at the bottom. I kind of grab that dough and just turn it around in there while pressing on the bottom, and you kind of pick up any loose flour at the bottom, right? So that's one of my little tricks. Okay, good. So now we're going to make that into a rock ball. We don't have to worry. It doesn't have to be perfect because, contrary to what people tell you, sourdough is very forgiving. It really does its own thing. And at the end, it may not always look the way you want it to, but it tastes perfect and it'll always give you a good result. Okay, perfect. Okay, so now to that, we are going to add, I'm gonna walk away, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Okay, we're just going to drizzle that on the top. Okay, and then Tim is going to, just rub that around nicely and get it underneath the dough and just make sure that it's all around. And that's really important because when we get to the next stage, we do not want the dough sticking to the bowl. Okay, there we go. Good. And we will be adding more oil to this recipe, so do not be afraid of that. In total, in this whole recipe, we use about 6 tablespoons of oil, which is perfect. This is a specialty bread, like I said, and you're going to really enjoy it at the end. Okay, that's not a lot of oil. Okay, so you are then going to cover this with a plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for 12 hours. But before I take it away, I want to show you what it looks like later. Okay, so here's one that we've already prepared. And it's been in the fridge for about 12 hours. And as you can see, it's risen, it's spread out. It's no longer a ball. And we're going to move on and do that for our next stage. Move that one. Okay, so we're fast forwarded. We've stepped into our time machine. It is now 12 hours later. I usually like to do the first step at night. So when I wake up the next morning, anywhere from 12 to 18 hours, you can get to the next stage. So this is a fun stage. And if you have ever done sourdough baking, it's called the folding and stretching stage. Okay, and it's not anything to be scared about. This is by the time you're finished, it starts to look like bread dough that you're usually used to looking at. Okay, so I'm going to ask Tim to tuck his hands down in there, try to get behind, yeah. And then we're going to pull a piece up, right, and stretch it across to the other side. Okay, I hope you can see that. And then we're going to turn good. Then we're going to turn it slightly. And we're going to pull up another piece and go across. And we're going to keep doing that until we've done it to all the sides. And we've got a nice smooth ball in there. And do not feel bad if it breaks. It's not the end of the world. Just keep going. You will be able to feel the strength of that dough and be able to manipulate it as you go along. You will become a real expert. Okay, now for those who wanted to know just about sourdough bread, I use exactly the same recipe, the same ingredients go into making my bread, only the process changes because we do not use any oil in my regular sourdough bread. Okay, so here we got is a nice ball, and we are going to get it ready for the next stage, which is so we have a 9 by 13 inch pan. And we're going to grease this so that when the dough goes in here and it finally gets baked, it does not stick. Okay, so let me show you what I do, and I'm going to give you a little tip. Before I add the oil, I'm going to spray this pan with a kitchen spray. Okay, I'm going to try to stay away from brand name, even though I may slip and do that. Okay, so I've sprayed that. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oil. Again, olive oil, if I haven't mentioned it, it's olive oil. Okay, and I'm going to let Tim just make sure that he spreads that all over so it's evenly distributed. Now, you may ask me, why did I use an oil at the bottom, a spray, and the olive oil, excuse me, on top? And the reason is you do not want your focaccia to stick to that pan. So these are the tips I've learned from other bakers. If you do spray it at the bottom and then add your oil, it limits or completely eliminates any sticking. If you do not have a pan, do not have a spray in your house, do not worry. Just rub the bottom with butter or margarine, whatever you have on hand, and then use your 2 tablespoons of oil. Okay, so thank you, Tim. So what we're going to do is now we're going to flip that ball over into here. So the tucked side is going to go at the bottom and the smooth side is going to go on the top. Okay, now that was easy enough. Doesn't it look like a piece of dough really that wants to run away from me? And what we're going to do is just cover that with the same, let's not waste, the same piece of plastic wrap you had used before. And then we're going to cover it with a dishcloth and just put it aside for anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. So anywhere during that time when you want to get to it, you can get to it and work with it. At the same time, I like to make my toppings for the focaccia. You don't have to do it at this time, but I like to do it now. You can do it just before you bake, and I'll tell you the reason I'm going to do it ahead of time. As we said, this recipe is going to be a garlic rosemary focaccia. So in this jug over here, I have 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So that's your last 2 tablespoons. So if you're cringing in the amount of olive oil, that's your final 2 tablespoons. You're going to add 2 tablespoons of water, 2 to 4 large cloves of garlic, chopped, or however you want to process it, and half a teaspoon of salt. Now, why I do it early is because at this stage, if you do it early enough, the garlic just infuses into the oil, and you've got a lovely flavored oil in there. You could add your rosemary in there too. I do not like to do it at this stage because rosemary can be very strong and it can overcome any of the other flavors. Okay, so we've done this. We're going to put it aside. We're going to get into our time machine and we're going to fast forward 4 to 8 hours later. Okay. Did we put it in the pan?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Okay, so here's our pan and what it looks like. I just wanted to show you what it looked like before, so you could get an idea. Okay, so this is it. When we first started off, it's just a lump in the middle, and this is it later. It's all spread out. Okay, now it hasn't spread out all the way to the corners, but don't fret because that's what our next job or next process will take care of. Now this process now is really fun, and if you have grandchildren or children, this is the part you want them to participate in. Okay, and it's good for the baker as well. You can get out a lot of your frustrations, or it can be really therapeutic. It's just a fun part. So Tim is waiting to get started, and okay, so. With those greasy fingers that he has, and if you haven't, you can just sort of rub your fingers in that oil and get your fingers a little greasy. All you're going to do is dimple that bread. So you're going to poke and go to the bottom. And yeah, and you'll see little bubbles forming on it too. I don't know if you can see it, but anyway, you're going to keep on doing that. And as you do it, you're going to press lightly towards the edges, okay? The only thing, you can do anything you want. It doesn't matter. You keep on doing that, but try not to pierce the dough right to the bottom. Okay, so while Tim is doing that, I'm just going to talk to you about sourdough starters. How do we get our sourdough starters? First of all, I think I've already mentioned that a starter is just simply flour and water in specific combinations. And you can get a recipe for that online. It usually takes about 12 to 14 days for that to mature. And you know it's ready to bake with when it doubles in size. You could ask someone who's already making sourdough bread for the recipe and for their helpful hints if they have made a starter from scratch. Okay, so that's one way. The second way is that you can order it online. When you order it online, you will most probably get a dried version of the starter, which you will have to hydrate. I have never done that myself, but I have spoken to people who have tried it and it seems to work well with them. The last method, which is the one I highly recommend, is that you ask a friend, a neighbor, or relative who is already making sourdough bread if they could please, and ask nicely, they could please spare a little for you. And usually some recipes call for you to discard some of your sourdough starter before you add more flour and water to it. So people may gladly give you a little bit to go with. Now, how did I get my sourdough? I got it from Tim and my daughter Emmy in December. Before that, I used to put my nose up at sourdough. I just thought it might be too much work. Who wants to go through that process? But I got it in December, and as my husband says, they created a monster, because since then, we have been eating sourdough regularly. It has just become a family favorite. Thank you, Tim.
Welcome.
And Emmy. So, all right. So, Tim, do you feel good after all that?
Yeah,
You know,
like a cat who needed into the couch.
all right. So here we go. I hope you can see it. It's not too bright. Can you guys see it? Oh. Okay, I hope you can. It's got little dimples in it. Tim's done a really good job. And then to that, I will now add the toppings we previously made. And we can smell the garlic just coming out in there. Can you, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Smells good, right?
It's one of my
So
favorites.
yeah, and then you're just going to spread that out, because you don't want any clumps in any one area. It's going to go all over the place in there. Okay, now since Denis had a few jokes there being flung all around, and since this is a family show, I have to make one stupid, silly joke. What do you say, Tim?
Let's
Tim is
go.
going to
Let's
cringe,
have it.
and he knows that he has to laugh because it's his mother-in-law's jokes, right? So Tim, how do you make a bread roll?
How do you make a bread roll?
Oh, silly, you just kick it down a hill. All right, so I'll do the laughing for my joke. All right, okay. Are we good there?
We're good.
All right, we're all done there. Then we take out our rosemary, okay, which are chopped really finely, and you just sprinkle it all around. You could get your children to do this too. It's always fun to sprinkle stuff on anything. All right, so there we go. And now, smell it?
Mhm.
Smells delicious? Okay, so that is going to go into an oven that has been preheated at 425 and 425 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to leave it in there for 25 minutes. And then it's going to come out really yummy. So we have one that's already made for you. And we will bring that out in a minute. What you want to see when it's done is you want to see a crust that's nice and brown, and you want to see an interior that's soft. So I'm just going to throw out a fun fact for you that I thought was fairly interesting, and that the oldest sourdough bread was excavated from Switzerland in 3700 BC. Okay, so we know that humankind was making risen bread way back during that time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's when bread started. We were making bread way before that. So flatbreads were probably the first breads. And then once we found the magic of sourdough, which is probably somebody left a little bit of flour and water somewhere and the magic occurred, and it has been used as a rising agent since then. Okay, so I'm going to get my bread. Okay, so there we go. That's what it's going to look like. I hope you can see it. I've got too much junk in the way here. That is your sourdough focaccia. And you can see that it's nice and brown and crispy on the outside. and it's very tender on the inside, okay? You can take this anywhere you want to. Some popular toppings, even you could add to this before you baked it is cheese, okay? So you could add cheese with the garlic and the rosemary. It comes out fantastic. If you're not a cheese lover, I've got another couple that loves to work together, and that's cilantro and olives. You could throw that on the top. If you're somebody who likes it a little spicy, you can always throw some green chilies, red chilies, or there's chili flakes on top of it. It is just delicious. And you can have focaccia. How can you eat it? You can have it with those wonderful drinks that Denis made originally. It's just a perfect accompaniment. You can have it as a light lunch, as a sandwich. You can cut it in half and put in any sandwich meats you want. Or honestly, you just heat it up and take a bite out of it anytime you want, and it's a feel-good bread. Okay, if you have any questions, like Denis said, he doesn't answer them. I will probably answer them through Greta or whoever you want to ask the questions with, and we will furnish you with the recipe later on. And I think we're done here. So I hope you do try making sourdough bread. Thank you, Tim. It's been lovely working with you. I wish you all a great summer, and I'm going to pass you on to Muriel.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to my kitchen. And you will notice that my kitchen serves as a bar as well. So I made a platter here of, I hope you can see it, a platter of a few appetizers. Greta asked me to make one. I made more than one. So we'll start off with some roasted spicy cashew nuts. I put them in little cocktail glasses so that each one takes a glass and you don't have to use your fingers, just help yourself. And this one here, it's called rosti, and it's a Swiss appetizer or an accompaniment to a main dish. And the base is potato. It's grated potato, and you use the russet potato, which is the brown potatoes. They look like 30 potatoes. You wash them, peel them, grate, and when you grate them, you put them into a tea towel and you squeeze, because there's a lot of water that comes out and you need to have it almost dry. Put it into a bowl, add some melted butter, flour, salt, and pepper. And you mix it up, and then you take heat up a little bit of oil and butter, and you put the potato into the pan, and it has to be heated. You put it into the pan and you press it down, and then what I do is I take a piece of foil and I grease it a bit, and I put it over and lay it down. And then I put another pan over, so that makes it firm and you don't get any air pockets. And you cook it for about 7 to 8 minutes on one side so that it gets brown on medium heat. And after that, you take a plate. So you put the plate over and you turn it, and you get the roasted part of the roasty under, and then you slide it into the same pan so that you're roasting the other side. And it gets crisp. Then you put it back on the stove and you cook it again for another 7 to 8 minutes. So both sides are brown. And then you put smoked salmon, dollops of sour cream with chives, and a little bit of dill. And sorry. And then you cut it into wedges. And that's what it looks like. So that's one. Now, for those who don't like salmon or fish, we have beef patties. Now, that's a go-on appetizer, and you don't need an explanation. So I normally freeze them, I make them, freeze them, and bake them as I want. Now, this here is interesting. This is asparagus with a crusty top. So it's what you do with the asparagus, you roll it with basil pesto. You brush it over, and then you roll that into a mixture of Parmesan cheese and panko. Now, I have made it a few times, but each time the panko, the crust fell off. So this time I put an egg yolk into the pesto, and it held beautifully. Can you see it? There you go. And actually I have one here that I did not bake. And just to show you, that's how it is. I did not coat the tips so that it looks a little nicer with the crust on one side and then the asparagus showing. The original recipe calls for green beans, but I thought with asparagus being in season, I'd use asparagus. Like that. And then I got some cherries which are in season for sweetness. And I'm done. So now we're going to say cheers to you with the cocktails Denis made. Cheers, and we're going to send you over to Warren Lobo's kitchen.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this section of our Summerlicious cooking program. I'm very happy to be here with all of you, and I look forward to having a fun 20 minutes with you. I guess we're running a little ahead of time, are we? Good. Anyway, so today for our main course, we're going to be working with fish. And I thought that I would do a nice barbecued fish recipe for you, because as we know, when it's really warm, it's always nice to be outside. And we want to be able to cook food that doesn't take a lot of time and is quick and easy and really delicious to make as well. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about, as I said, doing a whole barbecued fish, and it looks like this. And we're going to be making a wonderful special sauce that goes with this. And this is the perfect recipe for dining with friends and with family when you're outside and just having a good time and enjoying yourselves. So on with the recipe. For this recipe, the best kind of fish that you would get is a firm fleshed fish. So something, a white fish is good. So something along the lines of perch, or perhaps bass, and that's what this fish looks like. Okay. So this is a branzina, and when you buy it, you can have it cleaned as I did, and you can have it because they can stay. All right. Now, the fish is going to be stuffed with an interesting mix of basil, which we've got right here, chilies, and lime. And these three ingredients are not ingredients by any fluke. We're going to be using them as well when we make the sauce. So this ties in nicely to what's going to be stuffed inside the fish. as well as what's going to go on top of it. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to prepare the fish. And for the fish, what you want to do is we want to make 3 slits, as you know, on either side. So I'm going to do that right now. All right. They don't have to be very deep. And the reason that we're doing this is, one, to help the fish cook. And the other is we're going to be adding some seasoning, basically some salt. And we want the salt to go in it. Okay. So here we've got our fish. Here's my salt. So we're just going to put a little bit on it. And I'll come a little closer so that you can see that. Okay, there we go. We're going to be adding some oil later on, but not just yet. The next thing that we want to do is to prepare our herbs that are going to be going inside. So I've got the basil right here. Basil is kind of unusual to go into fish, but that's what makes this so special. All right. The stems of the basil are the best thing that you could use, but I'm also going to be using some of the leaves. So those are going to go in right here. Stuff that in there, right where we want it. Okay. Then we're going to be using 2 chilies. And I'm actually using jalapeno chilies. These are very, very spicy, but they're good. They add a really nice flavor to fish. So that's what we want. I'm going to split this in half, just like this. Okay, very simply. Stuff that one in. Turn the fish over, split it in half, split the second chili in half, just like that, and put that in so that the basil is basically in the middle, all right? We want it to be stuffed quite tightly, just like this. Okay, and then finally, I've got 1 lime right here. We're going to take the lime, we're going to be inserting it right in there. Citrus and fish always go well together. There we go. Okay, so our fish is nicely stuffed. Okay, and it looks really good. Now, there's one more thing that we need to do. We've got a clove of garlic here. So I'm going to take just, a head of garlic, and I'm going to take 1 clove out. There we go. All right, I'll just put the fish back on its platter. I've got my clove of garlic here. I'm going to just lightly crush it. Chop it a little bit. Don't worry if you've still got some of the skin on it, that's fine. And then I'm going to use some olive oil and just pour a little bit of oil onto the garlic. Look at the color of the oil. You'll notice that's a very deep, dark color. And that's because it's extra virgin. So that's the kind of color that would be. Okay, I'm going to use a fork just to bash this up a little bit. Very good. And then with a brush, just going to lightly baste top of the fish. And I'm only doing one side of it right now because I will turn the fish over and do the other side. Now, the fish is pretty stuffed. So what you would do is, and I don't know if I got my string over there. Oh, it might have. Anyway, what you need to do is you need to bind And in the recipe, I've recommended that you use a piece of leaf of leek. And when you do that, you just tightly bind it 3 times so that the fish is securely closed, basically. And then when it cooks, all the goodness will just remain in there. All right. I seem to have misplaced my string, but that's okay. Anyhow, over here is my barbecue. Barbecue is nice and warm. Let's put that down. We've got it all hot. Just going to put the grill on that right there. And then I'm going to take the fish and we'll put the fish directly on the barbecue. All right. Now, what you do is you keep the fish on there for about 8 to 10 minutes on one side. Then you're going to turn it over for another 8 to 10 minutes. And after that, check it, baste it some more with the oil and garlic, and keep doing it until the skin is really nice and crisp. If you use hardwood, then the heat is more direct and it will crisp the skin better. All right. So while that is working and whilst that is cooking, we're going to be moving on to make our Salsa Verde, which is a sauce. So I'll just need the platter of vegetables right there, please. The first one. Yes, thank you. And I will trade. Straight back. So it's always nice to have a grilled fish with a nice sauce. And this is one of the classic Italian sauces known as Salsa Verde. It is fresh and it is raw. And it's made with a whole bunch of fresh ingredients. So I was at the farmer's market yesterday. And as you know, farmers markets are a great place now to buy your weekly vegetable produce, if you like. But they had an amazing selection of greens. And this is exactly what you need to make a really nice, fresh salsa verde, all right? So we've got some parsley here. We've also got some radishes. We've got some fennel, which was grown by a local farmer. And I'm going to be using a little bit of all of that. I'll just get my new chopping board here. Okay, so I'm going to take about half a cup of fennel, of parsley. We've got that right here. Okay, I'm just going to keep it on the side. We've also got some fennel. So I'm going to use some of the green part of the fennel right there. I'll move the basket aside because we're going to be doing more things with it. Remember I said to you that we were going to be using ingredients that that went into the fish stuffing as well into the rest of the dish. Here's where we're going to be using some more basil. Right? So we've got some fresh basil here. And I'm just going to pull off the leaves. We won't use the stems for this recipe. The stems are great to stuff into the fish though. So as you're making this, keep the stems aside and use them to put into the fish. Same with the parsley stems. I've got some basil right there. And you can use whatever herbs you happen to have handy, but don't use the wooden herbs. So don't use things like thyme and rosemary because those are too hard. They won't work well. You just want the soft herbs. All right, so here we've got them. I'm just going to give them a quick chop, not too much, because we're going to be doing something else with them in a minute. So I'm just going to roughly chop them. And then we're going to actually reduce them even further. Okay. Great. So we've got our herbs that have been chopped up. I'm now going to be using a tool that I love very much. This is a mortar and pestle. And I use this to basically make sauces that are fresh. And this is the perfect example of a sauce that would use one of these. So if any of you have one at home, this is a chance to use it. And it's a really good tool. So the first thing we're going to add into our mortar is some capers. So this is about 2 tablespoons of capers. I'll show you all of this in a minute. And we would love to use anchovies. But as I realized, anchovies are actually quite hard to get. And if you can't get them, don't worry, use olives instead. We want something that's really strongly salty. And olives will do the trick. Because this is a salsa verde, which means a green sauce, we want to make sure that the olives are green as well. All right, so I've used pitted green olives right there. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is bash these together. Okay, so what you want to do is when you are using a mortar and pestle, you can go up and down with it, which is crushing it. But as you turn around, that's also a very good way of crushing whatever's inside. So these things, when they're actually being made, are made very scientifically because the round part blends in perfectly with the bottom of the bowl, and it will crush whatever you're working on in there. So I'm just going to give this a quick crush. And I just want to make sure that there aren't too many large pieces. If there are any large pieces of the olives, for example, that's fine. But you could actually even chop them up a little bit before you actually mix them up. Okay, so that's what this looks like now. Okay, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a bit of a green paste, which is fine. It's exactly what we want. And to that, we're now going to be adding 1 teaspoon of mustard. Okay, so the mustard goes in there. And we want a splash of red wine vinegar. So we've got a lot of sour things in here and salty things. And we're about to add 1 more. But before I do that, let's just give this a good mix. Okay, that's coming along well. I'm going to taste it in a moment. And if I need to add anything to it, then I will. But right now, that's looking really good. Okay, just bring it a little closer for you to see. Okay, it's looking a little yellow because of the mustard, which is fine. And now I'm going to add some lime juice. Once again, we had the lime, we had the basil, and I'll soon be adding some chili as well to it. So you probably want the juice of about half a lime. Okay. There we go. Mix that up. Okay, that's looking great. So now we're going to come back to our herbs. I'm just going to put a little bit of pepper in there. I'm just going to cut the herbs up a little bit more. And I have another tool that I also use whenever I'm chopping herbs, and that's this, which is a mezzaluna. Some of you might have one of these at home. And if not, it's a very worthwhile investment to get one because it's really good for posture and it really works and it cuts things up really, really fine. So that's what I'm doing right now, obviously. You also don't use a lot of energy and it's actually quite satisfying to use. I'm also going to put a bit of jalapeno. So I have one here in my basket. Okay, and I'm just gonna, we don't want to put too much because we don't want our sauce to be too spicy. So I'm gonna put about half. And I'm going to take out the seeds, otherwise it would be very spicy. All right, take the seeds out. I'm just going to chop it up a little bit. And chop them all down. Note, we're not adding any garlic in this sauce. You could if you wanted to, but typically the sauce does not have garlic in it. Now, this sauce, the way I'm making this one, is very good for fish, but you can also use it for meat. And if you're going to use it for meat, I would add more mustard than what I did. Okay, so we've got that chopped up. That's looking good. Make sure I get everything out. All right, and now we're going to add this to our sauce. And we're just going to give it a really good mixing. Now, what's going to happen is the herbs have they have water in them, so it's going to make your sauce a little watery, and that's perfectly okay. We want it to do that because in a minute we're going to be adding some oil. Okay, that's looking really good. I'm going to show it to you in a minute. I just want to get everything out. I'm just going to add some oil. All right, this is smelling really good. I wish you could get the scent of it, but it's wonderful. It really is. I'm going to taste it in a minute. Oh, that's really good. Very good. Okay. I'm just going to clear up my table. Make a little bit more space for you to see. Right, and this is what the sauce looks like. So it's now very green.
Will it come back?
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're now ready to plate. So I did a fish ahead of time, and I just want to show you what the fish would look like. So that's perfect. Thank you. So this is what the fish looks like after it's been barbecued. Okay, I got it really nice and crisp, and I actually used pieces of foil to hold it together, which is fine. All right, so what we would do now is use my scissors, and I'm going to just snip open this. Just pull that out. That's it. Thanks. Okay. And you can see how well browned and crisp our fish is. And inside are the jalapenos, the basil, and the lime. Okay. So now what we want to do is we're going to take the sauce, the Salsa Verde. And we're going to spoon it over the top. You can see we've got some of the larger pieces of the herbs and some of the olives too, which is fine as well. And this is how you would serve it to a group. So you'd actually bring this to your table, looking just this way. Okay, and I'm just going to clean this off. And then you might say, well, what else could I serve with this? How else would we serve this dish? So the simple answer to that is keeping in theme with the barbecue and roasted nature of this dish. I've got a selection and a platter here of roasted vegetables. And I've got quite an interesting selection here. So that would be actually pretty good. So I've got some cherry tomatoes that are still on the vine that are great. I've got some fiddleheads. I don't know if any of you are familiar with fiddleheads. They're delicious and they were just put on the barbecue and grilled. So that's really nice. Something you might not have tried before is radishes. Radishes are wonderful, but barbecued, they're extra good. So we've got that. We've got some zucchini, which is also very good. Everyone loves zucchini barbecued over the summer. And of course, we've got tiny little Yukon Gold potatoes, baby potatoes, which are excellent too. And then some other things that you might not be familiar with. We've got green onions, spring onions right here, right? You can always barbecue spring onions and they taste really good. They actually sweeten up and they taste wonderful. We've also got some fennel. Fennel is wonderful grilled and it releases some of its sugar and tastes also really nice. And then finally, I've got some radicchio, which is a very bitter and delicious, but a bitter lettuce. But when you barbecue it, something extra special happens to it too. And it actually becomes sweeter as well. So here are some different things that you can actually make. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a selection of all of these things on the platter. So over here, we'll put a couple of potatoes. And then we'll put a couple of fiddleheads over here in the corner. We'll do, whoops, a radish. I'm going to show you this as well in a minute. We'll do the radicchio right here. And then the zucchini. And let's get the green onions. Okay, there we go. And finally, a few tomatoes. Tomatoes. Okay, I think that's all. I'm just going to come around and show this to you. So that's our grilled fish right there with the salsa verde. You can see me. Grilled fish salsa verde served with barbecued vegetables. And it's a perfect meal for a summer's evening to enjoy with your family, with your friends. Basically what you do is you just cut it over here and lift up the pieces and just serve a portion for everyone. All right, I'll just put that back. So that's it. Please have fun, enjoy. You can also try and change up the vegetables. Could you use salmon for the fish? Yes, you could, but salmon and mackerel have a very particular flavor, which is also good too. And they're also heavy in oil, so just remember that, okay, when you're doing that, because it will flare up. But anyway, I hope you have fun trying this. It's one of our favorite dishes to make at Great Food and other places. And I wish you all a very happy summer and happy eating. Thank you. I'd like to now pass over to our next presenters. We have Karen Lewis and we have Emily Dias, who will next be doing a dessert. Thank you and bye.
Thank you, Warren. That was very delicious. My name is Karen. This is, what's your name?
Emily Diaz.
And?
Aiden Diaz Lewis.
Aiden Diaz. Today we're going to be making, what are we making today, guys? What are we making?
A caramel custard.
We're making caramel custard. Some people call it caramel custard. Some people call it flan or creme caramel. This is one of our favorite desserts.
This is Aiden Diaz.
And so today we're all going to be making this for you. So the ingredients you will need are, Aiden, what do we have here?
Eggs.
We have
Milk.
6 large eggs.
And sugar.
And Emily, what do we have here?
Sugar.
Sugar. So you're going to need 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And this is Emily's favorite ingredient. What is
Vanilla
that?
extract.
Vanilla extract. So you'll need 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And last but not least, you will need milk. So we're using homogenized milk.
That was my
And we're using about 1 liter of milk that we've pre-measured. So what you will need after you have all your ingredients, other items that you will also need are a pot that you're going to be baking your caramel custard in. You're going to need a larger pot to boil your milk. And you'll need another dish that's a little larger than your baking pan because you're going to be making a water bath when you cook your caramel custard. So we want to make sure that it fits inside there into the oven. So you'll need a dish a little bit bigger than the size of the dish you'll be baking your caramel in. Other items you'll need is a kettle. You'll need a sieve, a whisk, and I think that's about it. So are you guys ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pour 1 liter of milk into our pot.
That's a whisk.
There you go, Emily. And Aiden, would you like to pour it in for us?
Oh, yes, I will. The whole tin?
The whole thing.
Cool. Wow, this is nice and done. Can I stir now?
You can stir it. What we're going to do is we're going to place this on the oven top in medium to high heat until it boils. So we're just going to place our pot on the oven.
Oh yeah, guys. Can I look it up?
And we're going to put it on medium to high heat until the milk boils. You want to keep an eye on it because it can boil very quickly and you don't want it to overflow. So just keep an eye on that. Also, you do want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees before you start so that your oven is nice and hot when we're ready to get it into the oven. So from there, we're going to take our baking dish. Emily? Oh, did you want to sing a song? Okay, we're going to hold your song for 2 seconds, okay? So over here, we have the baking dish that we're going to be making the caramel custard in. You're going to take sugar and you're going to sprinkle on the top of your pan. Yes, Emily?
Can I pour the sugar?
Yes, not this one, but we'll have another one for you after. You're going to sprinkle the base of your pan with sugar, and then you're going to place it on the stove top until the sugar caramelizes and bubbles over. You want to keep an eye on it because, first of all, it's very hot, the sugar, when it's boiling, and you don't want to overcook it and burn the sugar. So you want to get it into a nice deep amber color. We've done this ahead of time, a little earlier, so that we can show you the color you're looking at. So Emily, you can hold this up for me. So if you can see it, it's an amber color. That's the base. That's the color you want for the base of your caramel custard. So that will harden on its own when it cools down, and then you just set it aside. Okay, so next we're going to crack our eggs. We have 6 large eggs that we've brought to room temperature. Emily, there's a song you wanted to sing to everybody that you learned in school. Can you tell everyone what it's called?
I'm a little leprechaun.
I'm a little leprechaun? Okay, so can you teach everybody how this works, how the song goes?
I'm a little leprechaun, tiny and sweet, hide behind the forest, behind a tree. If you ever catch me, you will see a wish I'm as quick as can be.
Thank you, Emily. Emily's our singer in the house.
Over
So
me.
And you too, Aiden. Is there a song you wanted to sing?
Wait, I didn't know a song.
You don't know a song? Aiden's our joker in the family. He likes to tell us jokes. Aiden, you too, can you whisk that for me, please? You're going to whisk your 6 eggs. You're gonna mix it around.
Where do we put that?
You're gonna mix it. Stir, 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 stir. There we go. We're gonna stir all our eggs. Okay. There we go. Excellent. And now,
Can I try stirring?
we're going to take our milk that has boiled and cooled
Come on.
and place it over here. I'll place it here so you can see it. Now, one tip I want to mention with the milk is once it boils and it's hot, you want it to cool down because you're going to be adding your eggs to it. And if you add your eggs to hot milk, it will start to scramble. So once it's cooled down, we're going to add our sugar. Emily, would you like to pour the sugar?
Yeah, tie for it.
I'll get you to pour something too, okay, Aiden?
I'll put it in.
Okay. Pour the sugar in. So that's 3/4,
Yeah.
yeah. 3/4 of a
All
cup
of
of
it?
sugar, all of it. So we're pouring 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and we're also adding 3/4 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Aiden, can you hold that for me, please? Thank you. So we're going to measure 3/4 of a teaspoon. Pour it in
Hello.
there. Thank you very much. And we're going to whisk that.
I'm gonna whisk it. I'm gonna whisk it.
Thank you. So once you have your milk and your vanilla extract mixed in, you're going to mix in your egg mixture. So we're going to pour the eggs in. Do you want to pour the eggs? Yep, you can pour that in.
I'll stir
The whole thing? The whole thing.
I'll stir it.
And Emily, you're going to mix that in. Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent.
Smells kind of weird.
So now in the pot, we have our milk, the homogenized milk. We have the sugar, vanilla extract, and your eggs. Another tip, what you can do is if your milk is hot and you don't want to wait for it to completely cool down, you can add a little bit of the hot milk to the egg mixture. And that way you're tempering the mixture so that when you add a little bit of the hot milk to the eggs a little bit at a time, it cools down the milk and it heats up the eggs. And then you can pour it in all together. That's another tip if you didn't want to wait for it to completely cool down. Yes, Emily?
Or you could do it ahead of time.
Or you could do it ahead of time. Or you could do it ahead of time. Yes. You can-
Yes. And
So we're going to mix this. Okay. So now that we've mixed all our ingredients together, we're going to be pouring it into. We're going to be pouring it into the pot where we had caramelized the sugar. Okay, so 1 second, guys. Everyone will have a turn. Here, we're going to place it inside. And we're going to use our sieve. Now, the reason we're using a sieve is because we don't want to have any lumps in our custard. We want it to be nice and smooth and nice and creamy. We want a nice texture. So
Yeah.
by pouring it through a sieve, we get any bit of the eggs that may not have completely combined. It'll keep that in the sieve. So I'm going to put it here. And Emily, can you help me pour it in?
Yeah.
Okay, give me 1 second.
It's heavy.
It is heavy, so I'm going to help you with that because it is heavy.
Mixing that with myself.
Okay, so now we're going to pour this mixture over the sieve.
Daddy, I got it.
And I'm gonna hold it for 1 second.
Over my.
I'm putting my
It's
hand there.
one more, Daddy. Cool.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we've poured our complete mixture into our pot. And as you can see in the sieve, there is some egg that's at the top here. So we don't want that to be mixed in here. So we're just gonna set that aside. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do our water bath. So what a water bath is basically putting hot water into a pan that you're putting your baked item in. And the hot water, what that does is it allows the caramel custard to cook evenly, and it allows it to make sure that it doesn't burn. So what we do is we boil the water in a kettle.
Can I help
And
you with
this is hot and it's a bit heavy, so I'm going to do this part of the pan. You're going to pour it into the larger pan. And you're going to fill the water. You're going to fill the water a little more than half of the size of the depth of the pan that you're cooking.
that?
So right here in my pot, I'm going to fill up the water so that it's about a little bit more than halfway up. Okay, so there's water inside this bottom pan, and it's coming up just a little bit more than halfway up the size of the pan that we're cooking the custard in. Okay, so from this point here, we're going to place it in our preheated oven at 350 degrees. Yes, Emily?
And why is it in the other pan?
So it's in the other pan because we've made a water bath, right? If we put this directly into the oven, it can burn. It's a custard. So with a custard, not like a regular cake where it's harder, this is more soft. You want to put a water bath in there so that it doesn't burn. Otherwise, the bottom part will get burnt. And it's going to be burnt custard, not caramel custard. Okay, so we're going to place this in our oven at 350 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes.
Maybe if Aiden has an idea what to do, he could do. We should try it good tested.
Okay, so we have it in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. I've made one ahead of time, which I'm going to pull out. And just for reference, the quantity that we're making today would fill a pan that's about a 9-inch cake pan. So when it's cool, so what you do is you leave it in the oven to find out if it's ready or not after the 30 minutes are done. You're going to take either a toothpick or a knife, and you're going to be placing it. Yes, Emily?
It's done already?
We made this one ahead of time, but we're just going to explain what you would do to make sure it was ready, how you would find out. So when you were to take this out of the oven, in order to know if your custard has set, you're going to place it either a toothpick or a cake, I'm not sure what these are called, but it's like you can use a knife as well. You place it in the center of your custard, and you lift it up. If you don't see anything on your knife or on your toothpick, it comes out clean. That means it has been cooked. If you see anything on there, then you know that it needs to be put in the oven a little bit longer, and you're going to place it in the oven for another 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, take it out again and do the same thing until you see that it comes out clean. Another tip that we do is once it does come out clean, rather than taking it out of the oven, turn the oven off and leave it in there until it's completely cooled down. Yes, Emily?
Thank you.
Did you have a question?
Yeah.
What was your question?
Can I try cooking it?
You want to try? Okay, so you're going to put this right in the middle, right down the middle, straight down in the center. And we do it in the center because that's where we want to make sure that it's cooked, because it cooks from the outer to the in. So make sure the center part has been completely cooked.
Feels weird.
When you lift it up, does it look clean to you, Emily?
Yeah.
So there's nothing on there, right? So that's how we know it's cooked. You can try that too, Aiden, yeah?
I'll do it on the other side.
Go ahead. Want to try it? Oh, you're using this side here. You're just going to press it down the center. Lift it up. Lift it up. Did it come out clean?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So once you've left it in the oven, you've turned it off, you know it's cooked. Let the oven, turn off the oven and let it just stay in there until it completely cools down. And then you're going to place it in the fridge, put a saran wrap over it, and place it in the fridge overnight to completely set. Now, next part, which is our favorite part, and also the most nerve-wracking part, getting it from pan to the platter. 9 out of 10 times this works, and it comes out beautifully. There is that 10% chance here that it may completely break. I don't know, we're gonna see. I did use a different pan than I normally use, but it's live TV and live, yeah, kind of like live TV. So we're gonna cross our fingers and see how this turns out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife and just around the edge of the perimeter of the custard.
We're gonna cut it.
1 second, guys. You're gonna place your knife on the edge, and you're just going to turn your dish clockwise.
Mommy.
And just allow the knife. Yes, Emily?
What does clockwise mean?
Clockwise means you're moving it to the right, like a clock.
Mommy, you make them a taste.
We're making a custard. So once you've completely placed your knife around the perimeter and gone around it to loosen it, we're going to remove it. We're going to take the platter that we're using, and what I suggest is getting a platter that has a little bit of a lip, because you will see the sugar that was caramelized. You will get a little bit of that sauce at the bottom, so you don't want it to drip over. So something that has a little bit of a lip is nice. And you're going to place your platter upside down. You're going to cross your fingers.
Cross your fingers in.
Cross your fingers. Hope this works. Ready? Are you going to count to 3 with me? One, 2, 3. Okay, we're going to flip it over.
Sound. Yeah.
And
The grand reveal.
Good job.
it survived. So here you go. This is our caramel custard. Now, we're not finished just yet. We're going to cut it up and plate it. Aiden, would you like one?
Can you eat it?
Emily, yeah. Are you going to try it?
No.
You want Daddy to try it?
I want to try.
Okay, we'll let Daddy and Emily try it. So we're going to cut a piece so you can see what it looks like.
We could also put strawberries on it.
Yeah.
And, or some other type of things.
We're going to just plate it. Now, sometimes because it's a custard, sometimes a little bit hard to lift up the first piece. Okay, and 1 second, sweetie.
Biggest piece.
Okay.
That one.
Hold on.
Well, you can smell it when it comes around.
And then you're going to use some of that sauce that I mentioned, which is the caramel sauce. 1 second up. You can just drizzle some on the top. And then whatever fresh berries you have on hand, you can use it to decorate. So here, what are we using today, Em?
Blueberries and mint.
Blueberries and mint. So you're going to put some blueberries on the top. Okay, I'll give you that in a second. Let's just put that one on the top for everyone to see. Then you want to put some more?
Just some eyeballs in that.
Oh, you're making a face? Okay. Okay, and we have a little bit of mint, so we're going to put a little bit of mint on the top. Okay, and there you have it. There's our flan / creme caramel / caramel custard. Do you want to try it, Emily?
Yeah. What's that for?
Okay, well, why don't you try the piece
Try that
on
one
the
first. Try that one first.
It's good.
Is it good? Excellent. So we hope you enjoyed cooking with us our dessert. Thank you for inviting us into your homes this evening. We had a lot of fun. We hope you did too. And maybe you learned something new and maybe you didn't, but we hope you had fun nonetheless. So thank you very much. Enjoy your summer. Thanks, everyone. Can you say thank you to everybody? Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you to all the amazing cooks, chefs, and their helpers. This was amazing. I was worried about the internet cutting off and, all these internet problems we can have, but it went really smoothly. Everyone was amazing, as always. They're going to send us the recipes, which I will send to you as soon as I get them all, except for Denis because he doesn't share his recipes. He's just drunk about 3 glasses of cocktails. And I hope he makes one for Muriel. Warren, that was amazing. Lisette, and your son-in-law did a great job. Thank you.
Come here too.
And of course, Muriel, you too, and always, we go to Muriel's house and we know we're going to get a fabulous meal. Denis does a little bit of helping, but and my wonderful grandchildren and my fantastic daughter-in-law, thank you, that was really good. Emily and Aiden, you did a great job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Bernie. Thank you, everyone. It was great.
Cheers, everyone.
Evan, thank you.
Cheers, Greta. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you. This was my own homemade drink. Cheers and thank you. Thank you to everyone who came and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful. Enjoyed it thoroughly.